welcome. I'm Sheana Davis, the Epicurean Connection, and we are here for our cheese chat this afternoon with Kurt Dammeier, Beecher's Cheese in Seattle. Welcome.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to take time to meet with us.
My schedule's not so busy anymore. COVID gives you a lot of time to do stuff like this.
COVID. It makes us feel busy, and yet we're not busy.
Yeah.
So, Kurt, I just wanted to invite you onto the Cheese Chat because you have done a lot for our American Cheese Society, a lot for our cheese industry, and personally, I admire you for your philanthropic efforts in your community, and I look to you as what you do in your community and feeding people, and that is what I like to do. So I would actually like to start off with what you're doing with your
Did you hear that? There's somebody that's sighing in the background. Sounds like they're getting a massage. So what am I doing in the community? We have basically three basic outreach efforts in our company, and one is tagged to our cheese company, Beecher's. And Beecher's spends 1% of all of its sales to try to change the way kids eat, essentially to educate them that food marketers lie to them, and we teach them to be skeptical and turn them into food detectives, which ultimately we try to use. We want them to just eat better and live healthier lives. What we do is we have a piece of curriculum for fourth graders. It's about 2.5 hours. We go in and take over the classroom and turn statistically, about 35% of the kids that we encounter, which is about 180,000 so far, we are able to substantively change their food future. And so it's a big deal. With COVID, it's been really interesting. Of course, schools are closed. And we were already working hard on the idea of pivoting toward being a little bit more virtual than we are now, with the idea of driving the cost per student down so we could reach more students with the same amount of money. And COVID has just really exacerbated that, or given us, it's kind of a bad thing because the schools are closed, but it's a really good thing because it gave us a whole lot of time to retool our program. So we do that, and I'm really excited about it today. And I also own a beef company, and it's called Mishima Reserve, which is an American Wagyu beef company that produces. We raise cattle humanely and sell healthy Wagyu beef. It has probably the only beef company to kind of like talk about the elephant in the room, and we have a commitment to plant mangrove trees in Madagascar. 500,000 mangrove trees a year for 5 years is our initial commitment, which doesn't make us 100% carbon neutral, but gets us pretty close to it. And more importantly, it just starts the conversation. You don't have to solve the problem necessarily, but chip away at it, I think is how I'd look at it. And then lastly, our company as a whole is starting down a path in kind of inspired by the Black Lives Movement BLM movement, that is looking like it's going to be a consulting company based out of our own experience to try to provide free services to food companies that are owned by people of color.
That's great. If there's anything I can do on the marketing, I would be more than happy to join you.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, I admire you for that level of keeping up with the trends, and I think it's important that we all stand up for Black Lives Matter, and it has to be done in each of our own communities and across the country.
Yeah.
And I thank you for doing that, because even in our small towns.
I haven't done anything yet. So don't thank me yet. We're just barely getting liftoff in terms of trying to do something there. And so, I think it's important not to take any credit at this point, for sure.
Okay, hold my thank you back and let me know how I can help you on the marketing.
All right.
How to join you because I've been looking for a project to join. So.
All right. Well, we'll talk offline.
Over here, the young lady with no mask on, that's my daughter. And she has some questions for you. We have one question is, you got a list of questions. Sorry, Kurt. You ready?
I'm ready.
How did you decide to open a cheese plant in New York City?
Yeah, that is a good question. So our cheese plant in Seattle was successful and was full. And so we needed to expand production somewhere. And, the underpinning for our company is to change the way America eats. And so the genesis for opening Beechers, or kind of like the lens with which we opened Beechers, was the idea of how can we help change this food conversation. And so with that idea, it's pretty clear that the only place you could go do that, where's a lot of people, it's New York City. And where's the media brain of the world? New York City. So that was about as that, and I love New York City. And we still there?
Yep.
And I knew that by opening there, I'd basically be marrying New York City for the rest of my lifetime.
Lucky.
And I was a happy groomsman, happy groom.
Well, I thank you for 1 year during the Fancy Food Show. You set me up to go help your cheesemakers unload milk. I don't know if you remember the emails. I was like, how do you deliver milk in New York City?
Well, just the same way as you do anywhere. It comes in the middle of the night, just like it does always, and in one of those big double long tanker trucks. And it just pulls, in the middle of the night, the traffic in New York City, even pre-COVID, was pretty low. And so it comes right down 20th Street and parks right outside us and just unloads at 3:30 in the morning.
That's what you told me. You said show up at 3 a.m. and I'll show you how it's done. And I did.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it. It was amazing.
Yeah.
We have another question for you. How did you decide to do 1% for your company? And is 1% enough, or should we all be doing more?
Yeah. Well, how did I decide to do that? I was inspired prior to opening Beechers to do that, inspired by kind of Newman's Own and Patagonia.
Oh.
And I thought that their model, I really liked it. I thought that in the future, as time went on, that especially artisanal cheese consumers, they don't want to just buy the cheese. They want to buy the story, the philosophy, the values of the people that are making it. And so just putting those values on big display by showing people exactly what we're using the money for was important. And making it a percentage of sales rather than a percentage of profits made it really transparent exactly what we were doing, right? I always feel like when someone says a percentage of profits that you just never know what kind of overheads they're charging and if they ever get to profit, right? Whereas if they're doing the percentage of sales, you know that every dollar you put in, some of it's going to go to that charity. Is it enough? God, no, it's not enough. But every business to be sustainable has to make money in order to provide good and increasing jobs for its people and security in a potential time of trouble like COVID. Companies, in order to be there, to be real, have to have success financially as well. So is it enough? Probably not. Is it too much? Definitely not too much.
And the comment comes back, thank you for what you're doing, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
And we have another.
Is that my wife on there saying thank you?
I'll have to check the name. I can't read the name with my glasses on.
I know it's not my mom.
Oh, you didn't invite your mom?
Well, she's hard to get a hold of these days.
Okay. So
in the great beyond.
I'm going to the cheese conference. I think we're going to go cheese conference virtual starting this next year.
Oh, that'll be interesting. Virtual is something that people have really, figured out kind of works, right?
Look at us in the same room in 10 years, and here we are.
Yeah, and I will cop for sure to being an old man who going into this did not believe in working from home. And I thought, working from home, you're not going to get anything done. We're not going to have those hallway conversations. And now that we've been virtual, my whole company, for 6 months, I'm a giant believer. I'm not 100% certain I want people to come back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do. There's value to being back, but it doesn't need to be all the time. And our ongoing model is going to be, you come in when you want to, and you stay and work at home whenever you want to, and just get your job done.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean,
and I'm sure I'm not alone. I think everybody's like that, which is really crazy to see. COVID is really interesting. If you were able to just like sift out all the bad things, there's a bunch of really good things that come out of it.
You know Bob Wills, right, from Cedar Grove?
Of course I do. Yeah, great guy.
100% agrees with you.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's not trivial to sort out all the bad things. There's so much of it. But underneath, there's a huge wellspring of positives, and also like just evolutions that have taken place that are going to be really good for society.
I agree. I mean, we have to sadly acknowledge the reality of COVID and how it's taken effect on the country. But yet, there is some positive. And with this, like Ari from Zingerman suggested that I bring back the cheese conference virtually. And he thinks if I did once a week, you are a keynote speaker, and I don't want to say when because it was a while back.
Yeah,
but
it was.
You come and having Ari come and having Bob Wills come and Sid cook, it could be a really good conversation.
Yeah, especially if you don't have to travel to it. It's just great.
Right. Except for I do like visiting you in New York or Seattle. I do. I miss the travel.
Well, yeah. Except our earlier speaker said Seattle's skeezy now, so I don't think you want to come there.
We won't let him. He can't travel right now. Matt from Chef Furlough. He has to stay home, right, Matt? He's there. And so, by the way, the heavy breathing you heard is the guys rebuilding the building behind us.
Oh, okay.
From the fire in 2017, the building behind us burnt, like only 100 feet away, and our building did not, thankfully.
That is nice.
They're rebuilding it finally after that many years. And then we had fires 2 weeks ago, I'm sure you read about. And they came within miles again. And Chef Matt was evacuated, but he's home now. But these are crazy times in California and everywhere. But
really,
before we leave on the cheese chat, can you share about your flagship cheese and how you create? I have a question. How did you name your Rastafarian cheese?
Oh, that's a evolving story, right? So when we first started making cheese, we decided that we wanted to make some flavored cheeses. And of course we make it in Pike Place Market. And so I basically went out and wandered up and down the vendors in Pike Place Market, looking for things we could flavor our cheese with. And I found this Pica Peppa jerk seasoning. We're all familiar with Pica Peppa, the sauce. They also make, but it's very not scantily distributed, a jerk rub that you put on the outside of chicken. And so I found jars of that, and we started using it as a flavoring. And it was, and then we named the cheese No Woman, and on the label it had this Rastafarian man. It was a kind of a not so subtle ode to No Woman, No Cry, Bob Marley, Jamaica, right? So then fast forward, all of our safety standards finally got to the point where we couldn't use that seasoning anymore because it was made in open vats in Jamaica and had no documentation.
Did not qualify for CASA.
Did not qualify for BRC, which is what we were on, and so we had to change seasonings. At the same time, we thought we should change the name because we were changing the actual seasoning, So we decided to change it to call it New Woman, and then and we changed to kind of like a kind of polyracial, younger, dreadlocked woman on the label. And that worked for a while. That was good. Fast forward to about 6 or 8 months ago, kind of in the beginning of BLM or right before that, we got some feedback from some African American members of our community that I deeply respected, that our label was kind of a cross between racial and also maybe culturally appropriating. And so we quickly changed directions, and we took the picture of the woman off the front and put a map of Jamaica. So now we have New Woman cheese that has just a map of Jamaica. And so it's just this, you have to tell this long story into how do we get to that name. Hello? Sheana, you went dead on me. Hello?
We can still hear you.
Oh, you're back now. Or somebody's back. I don't see Sheana though. Does anybody else have a question since Sheana can't get in? Hello? So I just see that Sheana left. Is there anybody out there in the audience who'd like to say anything or ask me something? Tell me something?
Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your plans for the future.
Yeah, well, you know, I am 61 years old, and really interestingly, kind of all my contemporaries in the cheese business, you know, I was in a share group with the other companies, and I put the group was Vermont Creamery, Cowgirl Creamery, who else? And 2 or 3 other companies like that. And they've all sold their companies, and now they're all like lying on beaches somewhere. So my plans for the future at this point are to continue on, but I don't know what that means. Am I going to continue owning this thing and continue doing this like to the grave? I don't know. It's a good question. I imagined that I would. Did that answer your question? Kind of.
So how long have you been making cheese?
We started making cheese in 2003, November of 2003, which was right. You know, we certainly weren't the first by any means in the artisanal world, but we started making it, and I would say that the artisanal cheese movement really got moving in around 2006 or 7. I mean, it was already moving, but it really went up in 2006 or 7. And when you look at like the attendance at the ACS conference, it skyrocketed during that period of time.
Look at you joined in, the Point Reyes Blue ladies. I mean, some of the most amazing Cowgirl Creamery.
They're in the call right now?
One of the Point Reyes ladies is, yes.
Oh, hey, love you Point Reyes ladies. Say hi.
They're logged in as Point Reyes, so I don't know which one it is. It could be Bob for all we know.
Well, I wouldn't say the same things to him.
Yeah, he's fun. He's a good guy. So, Kurt, I have 2 questions that came in for you. Can you explain more about your knowledge pantry and your philanthropic companies?
The knowledge pantry.
Somebody's
Well,
doing support.
That's interesting. That's happening at the Beecher's Foundation level. And what it is basically a resource to try to get truth about food in our food systems. So that's what that is.
So I don't know if you, Kurt, know, but I write recipes for our local Council on Aging and EBT, WIC, and SNAP. Mm-hmm. And all of our recipes have to be per my choice. EBT, WIC, SNAP approved for all the ingredients, but the same recipe can be served by a Michelin star chef and a mom at home with 3 kids. And
Yeah.
that's the goal, is to make a recipe that everyone can make at home.
Yeah.
It was pre-pandemic, but during the pandemic, it's become more apparent. So
Most Michelin star chefs like to just cook frozen mac and cheese when they're at home.
like this one right here.
No, I don't necessarily think they all like to cook when you're grinding away that hard in your day job. I think when they go home, they just kind of like get takeout.
Yeah. Well, I hope that they go home and cook healthy food.
Yeah.
And it's in our honor. My daughter and I write recipes weekly for our Council on Aging, the YWCA, to try and get healthy food into the hands of the community. And I think it's really important, which is what you're doing too.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to give people tools to understand what it is they're eating, right? And our hope is that by giving people tools to really understand, that they'll change their demand, what they buy, and that over time that change in demand will change the supply. And we've seen that. I mean, we of course aren't taking hardly any credit for it, but that's happened over the last 5 to 8 years, where the industrial food system is delivering to us healthier food than it used to, but it also can't help but try to kind of fool us with our desires as well.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of stuff out there that kind of pretends to be healthier, which necessarily isn't.
Yeah. I mean, we just lost, Willie Bird turkey just left Sonoma after 50 something years.
Yeah.
It was a bad day in Sonoma, if I would say, like to have our locally grown turkey. I have like 2 cases left in the other room. And when we're done,
But I'm talking more about people. The example we use a lot is Dave's Killer Bread, which is just packed full of vital wheat gluten and packed full of sugar. But because they put some seeds in it, it makes people, it co-opts people who think they want to eat healthy bread into eating it. But the truth of the matter is, it is the farthest from, you might as well eat Wonder Bread. And it doesn't, the evidence is that it doesn't go bad. When you leave a bag of Dave's Killer Bread in your refrigerator, it's good like 6 weeks later. And so we have a saying that if it doesn't go bad, then it's not good.
agreed. Yeah, we get bread delivered every Friday to our house. It's a company called Relax and Eat Bread. You'd love them. They started out delivering bread on their bicycle. Then they got too busy, so now they have a van. And now they have a truck, but they deliver bread to us every Friday. But if we don't eat it by Thursday, it's moldy and done.
Which is exactly what it should be. And then you turn it into breadcrumbs or bread pudding, the circle of life. And
yeah. So we get English muffins, we get sourdough. Because like you, we support whatever you want to make is what we get. So we never know what we get every week, but it's super fun because English muffins one week, sourdough. But I tell you, by Wednesday evening, we're like, what are we going to do with it? Because it's going to mold tomorrow. And like you said, we either cube it, put it in the freezer, like you get creative. I don't want a loaf that's going to last 6 weeks in my refrigerator.
No.
So Kurt, before we depart, I know you have a meeting at 2. We have one last question that came in from Zingerman's, by the way, just so you know.
Mm-hmm.
How has the pandemic affected your businesses overall, and how will you pivot to succeed in the future?
Yeah, that's of course the reality, because some of this pandemic stuff is going to last forever too. So you have to keep that in mind. So going into the pandemic, my business was about a third kind of restaurant retail, the Beecher stores and a steakhouse. And it was a third my beef company and about a third the Beecher's cheese in the wholesale. The restaurant retail went to 0 and is still only like at 25% of normal. And so the job there has been to learn new operating models and figure out how to do delivery and basically just try to be in the survival mode, right? You can't make money in that business right now unless you're a burger place or maybe, you happen to have a big deck in the right place. In the places we are, you can't make money. So it's just about a matter of trying to hang on to your best people. And, the PPP stuff has been a godsend there. It's really helped lots of operators, including us. In the beef business, our business was 50% food service, casinos in Las Vegas, and those all went to zero, and our beef business went really down instantly. And we've been able to kind of repivot and sell to more online sellers and more grocery. People are trying to buy more of that kind of steakhouse experience at grocery now than they used to. Right. So the beef's come pretty well back. And the cheese business, specialty cheese has not done well. Artisanal cheese has not done well. Commodity cheese has.
Yes.
And then a big chunk of our business in the cheese business is our frozen mac and cheese, which you have there. Thank you for putting that out in front of us. And it's super good, and it's done really well. I mean, I didn't know there was enough freezer space for the amount we sold in the first 2 or 3 months. So, I guess for us, we were super lucky going into it that we had kind of a portfolio rather than we were just one thing. I have a buddy who's just in the hotel business, and man, it's just scorched earth for him. And the same thing, my good friend Tom Douglas, downtown Seattle, all kind of mid-level to higher level sit-down restaurants, just devastated. He had 17 restaurants, and I think he's operating one now.
Yeah, I mean, we sold our cheeses all to the Thomas Keller Restaurant Group, and they are running at maybe 10%.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And so I don't have any, there's no magic. What I said to our people right from the very beginning is that we have to keep in mind the Stockdale paradox, right? Yeah. And the Stockdale paradox was Admiral Stockdale, who was a prisoner of war in Vietnam. And when asked who survived, he was the longest surviving prisoner of war. When asked who survived, he said, well, I'll tell you who didn't, and it was the optimists. People who were super optimistic did not survive. The people who had relentless belief in the ultimate success were the ones that survived. And we've paired with that relentless innovation and quick innovation. We all need to remake ourselves in this pandemic, and you need to take quick and maybe some risky moves, see what works, and if it doesn't work, move on to the next idea.
You're channeling my father right there. He quotes him all the time.
Admiral Stockdale?
Yep.
Hopefully, he was also the crazy vice presidential candidate of Ross Perot. So hopefully that's not the party that he's quoting.
No. He's quoting the Vietnam era when he was in Vietnam. Yeah. And he always said, don't be too optimistic, be a realist. Yeah,
and we've talked about that both ways. When things were devastating looking for our company, and we were laying off 350 people, and we were losing millions of dollars, a month, we had, don't get too down. And then when things kind of turned around a little bit, don't get too up. This is going to be a long haul, and it might, maybe we'll get lucky and we'll have a vaccine that'll kind of make everything cool in January, February, March. But I kind of don't think so. I think we're in for a couple of years, and especially until the economy comes back all the way. And right. So, keep your eye on the prize, and remember, that's what I tell my people, remember, one day you'll look back on this as something interesting that you lived through.
Well, I got to tell you something before we close out. Is the week before the pandemic hit, my husband and I, he's over here now. You haven't met him yet, but you will one day. We decided, because our clientele in the catering business is aging and they're no longer hosting parties and events, right? So we decided to start doing a home delivery service the week before the pandemic.
Nice.
I mean, and we had been planning it for since January.
Yeah.
So March 5th, we started home delivery.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the pivot that saved our business. Delivering food to all those people that used to host parties and events and catering. Now we deliver food to their home, safety, distance, the whole thing. And it has saved our business.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. And it's been amazing. And don't worry, I'm writing a PowerPoint for the Fancy Food Show and the American Cheese Society, because I think it's important to share with any other small business how you can pivot into a new success in their plan.
Yeah. And, you know, I guess one of my things too was just this learning about the value of not doing all one thing, not having all your eggs in one basket. And, you know, pandemics only come around so far once every 102 years, but there are things like that happen. And having a couple of different things going, I think, is really important if you can.
Well, I remember, and I'm going to say I was a little bit young when I hosted you and Ari at the MacArthur Place in Sonoma, the Cheese Conference, and both you and Ari told me, don't put all your eggs in one basket. I remember sitting there with a big fella, and I have never put all my eggs in one basket. So we have the catering, we have the cheese, and actually, Kurt, the cheese chats have become really popular because it's not about selling cheese, it's about what's behind the company and your value.
Right.
And it's been one of my favorite parts of the pandemic. And like you said, there's good that comes out of bad. It made me reach out to you, Bob Wills, Ari. We have the Giacomini sisters on. We've had some great conversations, and I hope to keep it up. And the demand is high because people want to know what's behind the company. So I really appreciate you taking the time. And of course, your Jana is amazing and fabulous and wonderful, by the way.
Thanks.
I hope
All
she
right.
does. So let's stay in touch.
That sounds great.
And
thanks for having me on, and we'll talk soon.
And let me know how I can help your project, any marketing. I'd be glad to share anything.
All right. Thanks.
Take care.
Bye.
Sir. Bye.